Here we go, we're off again, another Sunday podcast. How are you? Hope you're keeping well. Temperature, where's the temperature? 9 centigrade, which is 48 Fahrenheit, 95% humidity, 1032 millibars on the barometer, and the flag, yet again, is doing nothing. Nothing at all. Anyone would think it was glued to the pole, just wrapped round it. Email from Jim. Hello, Jim, about pronunciation. Do you remember I was talking about Fido the dog and the Lido or the Lido? Should Fido be called Fido? It's funny, isn't it? All the different, well, not just pronunciation, terminology and all sorts. Differs all around the world, especially between America and the UK, of course. But thanks for that, Jim. A couple of video clips of comedians taking the mickey, really, out of different words. For example, the word river and the word diver. Well, shouldn't diver be diver? If R-I-V-E-R is river, D-I-V-E-R should be diver. Or if diver is diver, then river should be river. I don't know. It's it's quite funny, isn't it? They do say the English language is the most difficult to learn if you're, outside England, outside UK. I would have thought Japanese or Chinese is, I don't know, I've no idea. There are a lot of things like the bough of a tree and the word cough, as in, well, why isn't the bough of a tree then a broth? Or why isn't a cough a cow? Anyway, let's move on from that. Thanks, Jim. 2 amazing video clips. Excellent. Oh, before I forget, Catherine, hello to you. Catherine said, how many grandchildren have you got? I had to count. I forgot. I had to work it out. 10. Catherine, we've got 10 grandchildren. Do you know, I get mixed up between nephews, nieces, cousins twice removed. I never could work that out. A cousin twice removed. Why is he removed? Where's he gone? Has he moved house twice? I don't know. Anyway, yes, 10 grandchildren. I had to think of our kids. How many of that? They got that. They've got that many. That one's got that many. And then work it out that way. I think my mother said, didn't she say the other day that she's got 13 great-grandchildren? 13, that's a lot. We haven't got any great-grandchildren as yet. There is some blue sky up there. Yesterday it was a lovely day. I went out into the garden. Do you want to hear a little recording of me in the garden? Well, you're going to, whether you want to or not. Have a listen to this. I've come out into the garden because it's a lovely day. I can hear a bumblebee. We've got a bush here that we call spike. I forget what it is. It's got very sharp leaves on it, yellow sort of flowers, and all through the winter. Can you hear that? Where is he? It's covered in bumblebees. Even through the winter when it's frosty and everything, the bumblebees are still out. Well, that one's disappeared. Now I want to record him. That's typical, isn't it? Now there's a chainsaw. Can you hear the chainsaw? Who's cutting down trees? What's the point in cutting down trees all the time? Can't hear the bees because of that. Here's the pond. It's rather nice, the pond. I do like the pond. It's only small. But there we've got frogs. There was a newt. Haven't seen him for a while. Here's the fig tree. Leaves are dropping off all over the place. There are still figs on it. Yeah, and they're quite nice figs. They're hard. They seem to rot after a while. They go soft. But the squirrels eat the figs, which is nice. I'm now down in our pergola. Some people call it a pergola. Is it a pergola or whatever it's called? I call it a pergola. We've got a seat here. This is lovely. Outside. We've got Boston ivy growing all inside here, all under the roof, down the sides. And of course, the leaves go red in the autumn. And they're all turning a beautiful colour of red. I might take a picture actually and put it on the website, rants.info. Bit drafty round here. Gary the tortoise isn't around. There's his garden. He's not out. Honeysuckle's going mad. That's evergreen. I do like the evergreen plants. The Boston ivy leaves, of course, will all fall off eventually. More leaves to sweep up. I can see 3 bees. Let's see if I can record this bee. No, he's settled in there now, getting pollen or something. No, there are 2. No, there are 3 bees. You know, the big bumblebees. drifting around all the different flowers. I don't know whether you heard that. Anyway, that's a quick look round the garden. There's the water butt. That's still empty. No rain now for 2 weeks. More than 2 weeks, and there's none forecast. Typical, isn't it? Buy a water butt, install it all, and it doesn't rain. Not to worry. I've put a picture of the Boston ivy leaves and the bumblebee. I took a photo of a bumblebee. They're on the website, rants.info. Have a look at the pictures there. If you're interested in Boston ivy leaves in the autumn, and a bumblebee, that is, you might not be interested. That bee recording wasn't too bad in the end, was it? You could hear that quite well. I don't know why they're on that bush all the winter, the whole winter. They're out there. I've seen them out there. There's snow and there's ice around. And there's still these big bumblebees flying around. I would have thought the cold would kill them, or they go into... Do they hibernate? I don't know what bumblebees do. Let me know. Raise rants at protonmail.com. Let me know what bumblebees do in the winter. Well, I know what they do. They fly around the garden looking for flowers. What's this episode called? I forget. Oh, it says on the screen, look, when I was a boy. That's right. When I was a boy, we had a school dentist come round. At school, he'd come into the school and he'd set up in an office somewhere, and every child in the school, each class, each child would take a turn to go and see the school dentist. Everyone hated it, of course. And if you had anything wrong with your teeth, then they make an appointment for you to go to the National Health Service dentist, which didn't cost you a penny. There are no National Health Service dentists now. It's all private and it costs you a fortune. They don't go round the schools anymore checking children's teeth, which is a shame. And there used to be a school doctor that would come round and set up in his office and see each child in turn, make sure they haven't got any dreadful things. What was it? Scabies and all sorts of dreadful things some of the kids used to have. Nits in their hair. The school doctor would come round. If there was a problem, he'd make an appointment for the child to see his or her doctor. That's all gone, hasn't it? That's all stopped. Again, when I was a boy, we used to have free school milk. Was it Mrs. Thatcher? Margaret Thatcher put an end to that. Was she called the milk thief or something? Which is just as well. I hated school milk. It was warm and disgusting. Having said that, it was very good for young children. Well, all children, it was good for them. 1/3 of a pint bottle, wasn't it? Do you remember that? Who remembers the 1/3 of a pint bottle? That was good for the kids because some of them didn't get proper nutrition at home. So even though it's only 1/3 of a pint of milk, it's something, isn't it? It wasn't always easy back in those days for mums to feed their kids properly if they didn't have a great deal of money. Mind you, that's the same these days, isn't it? There are families that they just don't have enough money to feed themselves properly. Now we've got blue sky. Now when I was a boy, the sky was always blue. The sun always shone. The entire 6 weeks summer school holiday. Sunshine, brilliant, every single day. It never rained. Just this second had an email from Susan. Hello, Susan. She says, "Hi, Ray. What about vets' bills as a subject? It is expensive. I know you talk about your son's cats. Our rabbits, who now passed away, whenever we took them to the vet, just for an injection each, for the 2 to be injected, £76. Initially, we had them insured, but the injections weren't covered by that. It was anti-fleas or whatever it was the injections were for, £76. Whenever we went round to the vet with one or both of the rabbits, it cost a fortune. In the end, when they got really old, we stopped the insurance because that was just, well, a waste of money, basically. Our tortoise, we take him to a special place at the back of Chichester somewhere. There's a vet there where they specialise in reptile type things, weird animals like tortoises who wear their skeleton on the outside of their body instead of inside like us. But we had him checked over. That wasn't too bad. I can't remember what it cost. That wasn't too bad. They had to clip his beak because he hasn't got a mouth. It's a beak. They have to clip that, and his toenails or claws or whatever they're called, they have to be clipped. We don't like trying to attempt that sort of thing. We'd rather take him to a professional. But you're right, Susan, it is hugely expensive. And as you point out, it puts people off adopting animals or going to the rescue place to get a cat or a dog or rabbits. We got all our rabbits from the RSPCA. There's a rescue place on the way to Brighton. Well, in Brighton, I think it is. And you go there and the rabbits are kind of free, but you donate something. So I think we gave them 30 quid each for the rabbits. We had several from there over the years. And the rabbits are all sorted out, neutered and whatever they do to them, and checked over by a vet and injected with stuff. And then you take them home and obviously take over the expense. But it does, I think you're right, Susan, it does put people off adopting or getting, especially rescue animals. A few years ago, we had a South African leopard tortoise, and he was getting bigger and bigger. Now, I said if you can't look after an animal properly, then you shouldn't have the animal. It got to the stage where we just didn't know where to keep him. He didn't hibernate. He was in a vivarium. Well, he had a heated place and then a big open space. He had a room in the house here, a whole room to himself, not a big room. And then we decided that that was too small. So we're going to have to put in, we've got a big shed. We thought of making a huge shed into his place. But it wasn't practical. And he needed looking after properly. He was growing, and apparently he could have grown to, a couple of feet or more long. So what's that, third of a metre, is it? Whatever. So we gave him to a place where they specialised in looking after tortoises. A chap drove down from somewhere up north of England and collected him. They're worth a few £100, but we just sort of donated it. It was for the tortoise's sake. It was sad. Tricia had tears when he left, when she said goodbye to the tortoise. It was sad. We'd had him for years. We'd had him since he was a baby. And, of course, every year he's bigger and bigger. And he was becoming a monster. So for his sake, we had to give him away. But we've had photographs of, we don't get them now, but we did have photographs of him with other tortoises in he's got a load of land and heated places. So hopefully he's happy there. But if you're going to have an animal, then you've got to be able to afford it and look after it properly. It's no good, for example, getting a dog if you can't walk far. The dog needs walking, he needs his exercise, and if you can't walk far, well, don't get a dog. When I was at school, one of the lads in my class, they didn't have a lot of money, his parents, they didn't have much money at all, actually. And he lived not far from Worthing Central Railway Station. Now, there used to be a goods yard there, and they had coal there. The main place was at Hove, I think. The main coal place was all at Hove on the way to Brighton. But there was some coal at Worthing. And he used to go over there at night in the winter when it was dark and steal coal for his mum, for the coal fire. It only came to light when the teacher said to him one morning, he said, how come you're all black? What have you been doing? You're crawling around in the coal bunker? And he said, oh, I was helping my mum with the coal fire. But it was every morning, his nails were black. I don't think they even had hot water or whatever to wash properly. He was a lovely chap, but he didn't wash properly. It wasn't his fault. It wasn't his mum's fault, I suppose. They just didn't have any money. I don't think his dad was at home. I think his dad had left. Eventually it came to light that he was stealing coal from the goods yard. And the teacher knew about this, obviously, so the teacher had a word with his mum. They didn't involve the police, which was good. And it was very nice of the teacher. I'll tell you what happened. The teacher took coal round to his mum. He ordered coal for his fire, and he'd ordered some extra coal for this lad's mum, which was nice. But I do remember that chap. They just had no money at all. He didn't have to pay for his school dinner because, you didn't have to if your parents were broke. So he had free school dinners. This is back in the 50s. And at least because of this teacher, he didn't have to steal coal anymore. But what a situation to be in. Some of the other kids used to laugh at him, which I thought was awful. Why don't you wash? Your nails are black. Why don't you wash properly? Look at the state of your clothes. Doesn't your mum wash your clothes? Haven't you got any new clothes? I thought it was awful doing that, but that's kids for you, isn't it? Not all of them, but some kids are just like that. I don't remember it. I'm not old enough, but there was a time when there was no such thing as dole money or social security, anything like that. If you didn't have a job, you didn't have any money. So you couldn't pay your rent, you couldn't buy food, you couldn't do anything. The state didn't pay. I don't know when that stopped. I don't know when social security type things came in. I'll have to look that up. No, I won't look that up. You look it up and tell me. You look it up and tell me when it all came in. Raise rants at protonmail.com. But that must have been awful if you didn't have a job. You've got perhaps a wife and kids at home in your rented little place, a terraced house. You've lost your job. What do you do? There's no money. I don't know what people did. I really don't. It must have been awful back then. I know I've talked about this before, but someone said to me the other day, why do you want to go back to the 1950s, some sort of utopian era? It's not utopia at all. It's just several people have said this to me over the years. I don't understand them. It's not utopia wanting a policeman to go past on a bicycle, to see him regularly out in the street going past. I know I've mentioned this 100 times over the years, but it's annoying, isn't it? I just want to go back to, or not go back, even have a time now in this day and age when there's a policeman on the street keeping an eye on local houses on the area, cycling past saying, morning, everything all right? Yep, fine, thanks. Getting to know the people around here. Post offices are closing everywhere. Another, 119 or something post office branches are going to close. We haven't got any post offices anyway. Someone said to me the other day, well, no one uses a post office anymore. They do use a post office. So we're losing post offices. We've lost the local policeman on his bike, Mr. Plod. We've lost everything. Everything's closing. The pubs are closing. I went on about that a week or two ago, didn't I? All the pubs are closing. They're closing basically because they're just not taking enough money. I know the beer and everything costs a lot these days, but it's not enough. There's not enough profit in it. I think this word utopia that people have used, oh, you want to go back to some sort of utopian era in the 50s. I've just looked up the word utopia. It typically describes an imaginary community or society that possesses highly desirable or near perfect qualities. The 50s wasn't near perfect. It wasn't highly desirable. We just had World War II. People were coming out of that. There was still rationing in the early 50s. When did that end? 53, 54? So it's not some imaginary community that's perfect at all. Honestly, these idiots that come out with, you want to go back to utopia. No, I don't. Idiots. Right. Ray's rants. And I'm ranting. It's all good fun, isn't it? No, but they are idiots, aren't they? Oh, you want to go back to... No, I don't want to go back to utopia. I just want a normal society where we've got policemen on the street, and if you phone the cops and say I've been burgled, they'll come straight round. Not, oh, well, don't know, might be able to fit you in next week. They hang up. Oh, okay. It's not funny. I don't know why I'm laughing. When I was a boy, you could phone the police and they come round straight away. I heard something on the news the other day. Some 9-year-old kid at school called someone a retard and got reported or something. Was it to the police? For this, whatever they call it these days, hurty words, called someone a retard. Someone else said in the class to one of the children, you smell like fish. Was they got reported? I don't know. Don't quote me on any of this. I've just heard bits and pieces on the news. Stone the crows. At school, in my day, if we all got reported for the names we called each other, we'd all be in prison. So would our parents, the teachers. The teachers, you wouldn't believe what they called us. Back then, honestly, one or two of them used to swear, the teachers, at the kids. And what's this other thing about schools these days? You're not allowed to compete. If it's a sports day, you're not allowed to have a winner. Everyone's a winner, no one's a loser. They can't compete. As they were saying on the telly, some chap said that later on in life, when they're going out to work, if someone, I don't know, calls them an idiot or something, they're not going to be prepared for it. They won't be prepared for the real world, for real life. Oh, he called me an idiot. I think they're just going to crumple, aren't they? What do I do? He called me an idiot. They go home and cry. People do need at school, I don't mean to be bullied and beaten up and stuff, but they do need to be able to cope with being called a name. Goodness me, as I said, the things we called each other at school. I just don't know what's happened to the world. Let's all go back to utopia. We can't. We can't go back to utopia. It's imaginary, isn't it? An imaginary, near-perfect society. Why is it near perfect and not perfect? I have no idea. When I was a boy, I remember my mum walking into a shop and the chap would say, "Good morning, madam, how can I help you?" Or, "Good afternoon, madam, how can I help you?" And he'd serve my mum with whatever. These days you go into a shop, what do you want? It's not quite that bad. Some are. I've been into shops and the person behind the counter just sort of looks up, doesn't say anything, just looks at me, waiting for me to say something. No good morning or anything, can I help you? Do you remember that programme called The Prisoner with, what was his name in it? Oh, here we go. You'll all be emailing me now with his name. Patrick McGowan, was it? Number six, the prisoner. He was number six, the prisoner. I think they filmed it in some Welsh village somewhere. And you couldn't escape the village. He was a prisoner there. But that village was a kind of utopia. You had everything you wanted. You had your little house. You had little shops there. Everyone was happy. Good morning. How do you do? Good afternoon. It was near perfect utopia, I suppose, except he was a prisoner, always trying to escape. There was the sea. He'd go down to the beach and hope to escape somehow, I don't know, swim away or whatever. And this big balloon, do you remember that big balloon? It would roll down the beach after him. It was a daft programme, thinking of it now, but back then it was good. I used to watch The Prisoner. I'm a name, not a number. Number six he was. I'm a name, not a number. I suppose that was utopia, was it? I don't know, you tell me. Raise rants at protonmail.com. How can it be utopia if you're a prisoner? Mind you, they wanted to do, what was it, 15-minute cities. Have you heard of that? Some rubbish, some ridiculous idiot MP came up with, no doubt. 15-minute cities, so everything within 15 minutes of where you live, you've got everything. Post office, well, they haven't got any post offices now. Pub, well, they've gone. I don't know how they can have a 15-minute city when there's nothing left. So everything you want is within 15 minutes of your house. It's daft, isn't it? What a daft idea. Honestly, there are some idiots about. I know I keep saying it, but there are, aren't there? Idiots behind desks that come up with these things. Here where I live, they put cycle lanes in. I'm not going to get into arguing about cycling and bikes are always in the way of traffic on country lanes, even though they are. We won't go there. But they put cycle lanes over the main bridge here of the railway line, and it was an absolute disaster, a complete disaster. So what happened after a while? They took all the cycle lanes and all the bollards and all the rubbish. They took it all away. Talking of bikes, the worrying thing is at night, very few of them have lights, and most of them seem to be wearing a dark jacket, dark clothing. You can barely see them when they're cycling along. I don't know, it's very dangerous. They don't seem to realise that if a car hits them, they're the one that's going to get damaged. They're the one that's going to end up in hospital, not the car driver. He's going to have a scratch or a dent on his car. I don't know why they don't enforce this. They should have lights on bicycles at night because it is so... I don't think they realise that they can't be seen in the dark. If I were to go out on a bike, which I wouldn't, it's far too dangerous. But if I happened to go out at night on a bike, I would have proper lights, I'd wear a high-vis jacket, and I'd probably break the law by cycling on the pavement, which a lot of them do, which is a lot safer, of course, for themselves. But then you get a little kid run out of a gate. Imagine you've got a hedge, the front garden of a house, then the gap where the gate is, and this is more in the daytime, of course. A child runs out of the gate and is flattened by a bicycle or one of these wheelchairs that do like 50 miles an hour along the pavement, Vrrr, with some old bloke in it. Beep, beep, out of the way, coming through, splat. What was that? Oh, sorry, son. It's not funny. I don't know what's happened. Who remembers in the UK, this is, I don't know what you had abroad, back in the 50s, they had a two-stroke engine. They were blue invalid-type carriages. Are you allowed to say that, or is that somehow hurty words these days? Does that offend anyone? Do you remember those two-stroke engine things? You'd get in it, they were invalid carriages, and they'd go flying around the roads. I think they had to go on the roads. Do you remember those? I remember as a kid thinking it would be great to have one of those to whiz round, go over the shops in it. They had sort of handlebars inside this. Well, it was a little car, and it was steered with handlebars. I suppose it was like a motorbike. You had the clutch and the throttle and whatever. Who remembers those in the old days? The next time someone says to me, you just want to go back to utopia, I should say you don't even know what the word means, idiot. Email from Maureen. Hello, Maureen. She's written this as a kind of list. Got married. Husband didn't want children. Many years later, he left me for another woman. I'm now on my own. No husband, no children, no grandchildren, and it's all too late. Oh, that is sad, Maureen. But you've got a dog. You say you've got a dog. That's all right. That's something, isn't it? At least to keep you company. But that's a shame. I have known couples where one of them doesn't want kids and the other one does. And it can cause problems, obviously. A rift. There's a word, a rift. I've known one or two people like that in the past. And also, you've got to be a little bit careful. If a couple haven't got kids, maybe they wanted children but couldn't for whatever reason, they couldn't have kids. So I know a chap and his wife, I haven't seen them recently actually. They never had children. And he always said to me, oh no, we didn't want kids, take up too much time and money. And one day his wife said to me, when he wasn't within earshot, she said, actually, we did want kids. We tried for years and years to have children, just didn't work. That's a shame, isn't it? Trying for years and nothing happens. Then someone else will have a baby without trying and they don't want it. That's sad as well, isn't it? I did have an email the other day about, all this grandchildren business and stuff. This lady, I forget her name now, she said that her and her husband didn't ever want children, and now they're retired, they're pleased that they didn't have children. It doesn't suit everyone, does it? It doesn't suit everyone at all. I love kids. I've loved having kids. It's really great, especially as you get older, and especially when the grandchildren come along. But this lady, Helen, her name, I think it was Helen. Hello, Helen, if you're listening. Sorry, I forgot your name. You're both quite happy. You have your holidays. Oh, the Isle of Wight. The Isle of Wight. Oh, well done, Helen. Go on holiday to the Isle of Wight. I might bump into you next time we're over there. We're going next May. Let me know when you're next there. No, seriously, you're enjoying your life as it is without the kids, without the grandchildren. It doesn't suit everyone, does it? I've just made a cup of coffee. I was going to have tea, but I thought I'd have coffee for a change. Not doing very well, am I? Supporting the British tea culture by drinking coffee. I keep getting bleeps and things around. I don't know what's going on. In the old days, when I was a boy, you could go into a cafe and you could say, tea please, or coffee please, and that was it. These days, tea, what do you want? What sort of tea do you want? India, Chinese tea, Earl Grey tea? I don't like Earl Grey, it's perfume, it tastes of perfume. If you ask for a coffee, you'll be there all day. Right, do you want latte? Do you want fat? Do you want skinny tea? Do you want this? Do you want milk? Do you want soya? Do you want... It goes on and on. I just want coffee. Open a tin of Nescafe, spoonful of that in the cup, hot water, dash of milk, job done. I don't want all this other stuff. When I was a boy, you could go into a cafe, cup of coffee, cup of tea, egg and chips, bit of bread. Perfect. Sit down, I'll bring it over in a minute. And what was the cost? 7 and 6pence halfpenny. Utopia. Mac, nice to hear from you. Thank you for the photos of where you live. Lovely place. What was it, built in 1800 and something? Lovely place, listed building. Really nice. Nice bit of land there as well. Aerial in the middle of the lawn. I like seeing the aerial. Now here come the dustmen, so probably a good time to have a break, finish my cup of coffee and have a little tune around on my shortwave radio. See you in a minute. It's now Saturday morning, 6:30. Nice and dark, cold. I'll tell you what, 2 degrees out there, 35 Fahrenheit, 2 degrees, 35, only just above freezing. They reckon we're having snow. Mind you, here we go. Do you remember last winter I was on about this? A blanket of snow will cover the UK within days. Snow will be here for the next 6 months. Beast from the east. And nothing ever happens. We're not down here on the south coast anyway. Beast from the east. I shall keep you posted. Red sky this morning. Lovely red sky. Red sky in the morning. Shepherd's warning. Or as my sister-in-law would say. Silly girl. Red sky in the morning. Shepherd's hut on fire. I don't know why I find that funny. It's stupid, really. I said earlier, if you remember, if you were paying attention, our tortoise hasn't got a mouth, he's got a beak. Well, he has got a mouth, obviously. I got that wrong. He has got a mouth. He hasn't got teeth. He has a beak instead of teeth, and his beak is razor sharp. So if he nips your finger, you will know about it. There'll be blood everywhere. Also, our rabbits, they were rescue rabbits from the RSPCA. What they did when we first had a rabbit, just one, they came and visited us. A lady came round from the RSPCA. She inspected the hutch and the run area. We didn't have the rabbit in a very small wooden hutch like some people do. I think that should be against the law, actually, or against some regulation or other, because it's so small that they can't bounce around or do anything. So the lady turned up and she said, oh, I'd like to inspect your arrangements for your rabbit. And I said, yes, come through to the back garden. Trish and I took her out there and she was amazed. The rabbit had half the lawn, fenced off, of course, half the lawn, a 14-foot brick-built hutch that I built. Very well, I may say, blowing my own trumpet. A lovely 14-foot hutch, a heated area, an underfloor heated area in one part of it, in case it got extremely cold in the winter. An electric fence around the whole area to keep foxes away. The woman was impressed. She said, "I've never seen anything like it." Anyway, she was very pleased. We ticked all her boxes on her clipboard. So off she went, quite happy. And then in future, when we had rabbits, they knew of us. They knew that we were okay, so they didn't have to inspect us again. I had a rabbit when I was a child. Well, my brothers and my sister and me, we had the rabbit. And he was in a small hutch, and he stayed in that small hutch most of the time. We let him out into the garden now and then, but he was difficult to catch. He'd hop away and we couldn't catch him. And he was in that small hutch. I didn't realise at the time, I suppose my parents didn't realise, that it was cruel to do that, to keep a rabbit in a small hutch like that. I mean, what are these hutches? They're about, 4 feet, are they? Perhaps 2 feet high, perhaps 2 feet deep. It's just not good enough. It must be like being in prison for the rabbit. They do say that they have to run and hop, I forget how many times, 4 or 5 times. So they go hop, hop, hop. And that's in the outside run. And in the inside, I don't know why I'm telling you about keeping rabbits. The inside, they must be able to stand up, stretch upright fully on their hind legs. Talking of pets and animals, so these aren't animals, we now have stick insects again. We kept stick insects years ago. About 10, 12 years ago, we had I made this huge box, this kind of glass-fronted thing. It was massive, and it was full of stick insects. They kept having eggs, hatching into more stick insects. In the end, we gave them away, well, it wasn't a vivarium as such, but we've now got daughter number 3's stick insects in this tub thing, not a tub, a kind of aquarium thing. She was not able to look after them, so they've come here. It's typical, isn't it, of all pets. They always end up being looked after by parents. Anyway, we've now got stick insects that Trish deals with that. They have to be cleaned out. New, privet and ivy they eat, water and stuff, so that's another job. Hello to Mark over there in Ireland. You said hello to me. How are things on, on the YouTube video, I think. I'm fine, yes. We're looking forward to, what shall I say, not Christmas, not New Year, spring. We're looking forward to the spring. I wonder how you're doing over there in Dublin. Alan, nice to hear from you. How easy was it, Alan asks, to open a shop back in the 60s? Well, I didn't open a shop, but my father did. He opened a shop back in the 60s. It was easy. It was a good era, the 60s, for making money. For self-employed people in particular, it was a good decade, not era, decade, isn't it? To open a shop, well, this one was owned by the council. So what my dad did was go to the council and say, "Have you got any shops to let?" They said, "Yes, there's that one, and he chose one, and that was it. He opened his shop. It was an electrical shop repairing washing machines, vacuum cleaners, spare parts for sale, all that stuff, which of course went very well back in the 60s because people did repair their own bits and pieces. And if they couldn't do it, if they couldn't repair their own vacuum cleaner, for example, or hairdryer, they'd take it along to the electrical shop. So he did very well. In fact, later on, he moved to a bigger shop and sold a massive range of spares for just about every electrical appliance you can think of. A lot of people opened shops back then. When I was in the radio and TV workshop in the 60s, several people left to open their own radio and TV shop. So we had quite a few in the town, all owned by various people that had left TV companies, the bigger TV companies. They left to open their own shop, and they all did all right, because back then, of course, tellies went wrong every 5 minutes, didn't they? They were not at all reliable back in the 60s, especially the 50s. TV engineers were kept busy all the time, and radio engineers, of course, the old valve radios, which up until recently I've been restoring. I've now retired, of course, so I have time to speak to you, which is good. But it was busy all the time. TV engineers were busy, out and about in their cars and vans every day, doing calls, mending tellies, and other sorts of shops. I know people that opened a toy shop? A friend of the family opened a toy shop in Shoreham, and he did extremely well. Back then in the 60s, shop rents were sensible. All rents were sensible. A friend of mine, he got married. 16 he was when he got married. That's young, isn't it? 16. He got married and they rented a flat together, and it was cheap. I forget the amount, a couple of quid a week or whatever it was. These days, you need a fortune to rent. The rents are just incredibly high. Of course, people are moaning at landlords, you shouldn't have rent so high, blah, blah, blah. But the government are saying landlords have to do this and have to do that. The heating must be right, the insulation. So landlords are having to spend more and more money on their properties. So they put the rents up. It just goes on and on. And now the government are saying you can't chuck people out, which is fair enough. You don't want to be chucked out of your home, do you? If you live there for a few years, the landlord suddenly says, right, that's it, I want the property back because my mum and dad are moving into it or whatever. So you chuck out your tenants who have been really good, paid the rent on time for a few years. So that's not really fair. But on the other hand, if the landlord does want to sell his property or whatever, he can't throw people out. Well, not throw people out, evict them. What are they calling it? No fault eviction or something. You can't do that. If they've done nothing wrong, your tenants have done nothing wrong, you can't evict them. I don't know. I don't think I'd like to have property rented out. I do know someone that did rent out a couple of flats, and one was trashed. It was totally wrecked. The rent wasn't paid. It was a nightmare, absolute nightmare. Eventually, when the tenants left this particular flat, he had to spend a lot of money doing it all up. Then he sold it, get rid of it. He said to me, it's just not worth the effort, not worth all the hassle. So, Alan, to answer your question, after all my waffling, yes, it was very easy to open a shop back then. There were other bills, of course, apart from the rent, but you could make decent money, depending on the sort of shop you opened. A chap I knew, Mike, he opened a bric-a-brac shop. His interest was stamp collecting, and he had a lot of stamps. So what he did, he opened this bric-a-brac shop and then introduced stamps. So once people got to know the shop, they bought not antiques as such, but they were verging on antiques. So they get to know the antiques in there. Then he introduced stamps to the shop, and he did very well, extremely well. It wasn't always full of customers, obviously, because it was a very specialist type thing, but people would go and visit his shop from miles around, other towns up in London. They come down here to the coast to look at Mike's shop, look at the stamps. He did very well. Of course, all this carried on from our nation of shopkeepers into the 60s. We were a nation of shopkeepers, all gone now, of course. Another chap I knew, Ted his name was, he opened a furniture store. He rented this huge building from the council, not far from the town. It wasn't out of town, so he was on the way into town. And he sold mainly three-piece suites and beds. And he did well. I don't know where he got them from. I remember him saying to me, I've only got to sell one bed and I've paid the rent for the week, because the building was dilapidated. It really was awful. In the end, it was demolished, of course, but he rented this huge building. There's like a big shop front downstairs, then a load of floors above where he kept all his stock. He employed a couple of lads to do all the humping and lifting sofas and beds up and down the stairs. And he was a real, I don't know, he was a lad. Ted, his name was. Lovely chap. East Ender. He'd come down here, East End type chap. He'd stand outside his shop looking up and down the street. And as people walked past, he'd say, hey, I've got some special offers. I've got a three-piece suite that I've got to clear today. Come and have a look. And of course, people would go in. And he'd say, look, I've got that one there. Oh, I'd rather have that one. I used to go in there sometimes and watch him doing his selling. He'd say, look, I've got that one. It's half price. I just need to clear it. And someone might say, I like that one there. Funnily enough, I can do you that at half price. Everything was half price. He was a lad, but he did well. It was great. I wouldn't recommend anyone open a shop today. These days, the rents are very high. Everything's so costly. There's all the online, isn't there? People don't go to the shops so much now. It's online. Of course, back then, there wasn't all the online stuff, eBay and Vinted and all these other bits and pieces we've got. What we did have was the Exchange and Mart, which was like a very thick newspaper stapled in the middle, and it was just full of adverts. But that was mail order, so you'd send off your cheque or postal order, and then a week later or a week and a half later, you'd get your item turn up in the post. Unlike now, with places like Amazon, you order it this morning, it'd probably be here this afternoon. I have had that happen. Next day delivery I've gone for, the Prime thing. I've ordered it first thing in the morning, and it's turned up in the evening the same day. Quite amazing. Of course, the trouble is, we've all got used to that. I did order something for my water butt, a drain pipe thing. I ordered it on the Prime next day delivery thing. I had an email, sorry, there's been a problem. It took 3 days to get here. And of course, when that happens, people are saying, oh, this is dreadful. I had to wait 3 days. In the old days, you'd have to wait a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks for it to be delivered if you bought it on mail order. We've been spoilt, of course, now, haven't we? We expect everything to turn up either today or tomorrow, and that doesn't always happen. We have been spoilt. I think we've been spoilt by food over the years as well. You've probably heard wherever you are in the world, we've got the trouble with the farmers. They're going to have to pay inheritance tax, so they can't just pass the farm on now to their kids, generation after generation. There was one on the telly. He said, this was my great-granddad's farm, then my granddad's, then my dad's, now it's mine. I'm going to pass it on to my 2 sons, and they're going to have to pay a massive amount of inheritance tax. So I don't know what's going to happen there. I think the farmers next week, is it on Tuesday, they're all driving their tractors to London or something to block the streets or pour manure all over 10 Downing Street. That should be interesting to watch if they do go ahead with that. But of course, without farmers, we don't have food. And from what I understand, one of the farmers' main problems is they are, say, producing milk, for example, and they're selling it at less than it costs them to produce it. That's if you believe all you hear on the news. I mean, I don't know myself. The supermarkets are saying, well, we're going to pay you so much a litre for milk. And the farmers are saying, well, hang on, it costs us a couple of pence more per litre to actually produce it with all the costs, etc. And the supermarkets were saying, well, that's the price we're paying, like it or lump it. It's the same with all the other food. The supermarkets seem to be ruling the price. We will pay you that amount for carrots. If you don't like it, well, go and sell your carrots elsewhere. I don't know how true that is. This is what you hear, isn't it, on the news? And the trouble is with the news, they're rather like weather forecasters, aren't they? They tend to lie quite a lot. So I'm home alone today, as I was yesterday. Tricia was running the cake shop all day yesterday. It's now Saturday morning. She's going round there to run the cake shop today. Talking of kids having pets, dogs, cats and all this. Oh, it's my dog, it's my cat. They don't look after them. Dog needs to be taken for a walk. Oh, I'll do it in a minute. In the end, the parents have to do it and look after the pets. So daughter number 3 opens a cake shop. She is busy out the back baking all the cakes and everything, the brownies, the blondies, all these weird things they call them these days. So who's having to run the shop? Mum's having to run the shop. So Trisha's round there today. I think she's going to have to do, was it 2 or 3 days a week? To be honest, I think she quite enjoys going round there, opening the shop up, talking to customers. And of course, get away from me. Get away from me for a few hours. Happy days. So there I am telling people that if I were you, I wouldn't open a shop. So what's daughter number 3 do? She opens a shop. She's doing all right, though. It's okay. The main thing is she's happy. I was talking about this, wasn't I? And several of you said about jobs, earning big money in a job that you hate. It's just not worth it. Waking up Monday morning, oh no, I've got to go to work. Oh, stone the crows. Or worse, when you realise it's Monday and you've got to go to work. You're far better off with a job that you're really happy doing and a little bit less money, or quite a lot less money even, if you can survive, of course. It's just not worth the stress, is it, going after a job or being in a job that's extremely well paid, but it's a nightmare and it's stressing you out and making you ill. What's the point of that? Daughter number 3 has always loved making cakes, even when she was young. She was in the kitchen making cakes. Some of them got thrown in the bin. They came out of the oven, went straight in the bin because that one had gone wrong. Do another batch. And she just loved making cakes. So, of course, she's ended up with a cake shop, which is good, isn't it? It's also with her friend. Both girls run the cake shop together. They're both out in the kitchen together. They get on very well. You have to, don't you? You know, if you're in partnership in a business or whatever, you've got to get on well. So those two are busy in the kitchen, baking, and Mum runs the shop. I think it's 2 or 3 days a week she does. I think they've got someone else that comes in on the days that Tricia doesn't go there. I wouldn't be any good. I don't think I could serve the public. What do you want? No, we haven't got any of that. Get out. It's just not me. I don't like people. I think they take one look at me glaring at them and they turn around and leave, slam the door behind. I'm not going in there. Have you seen that bloke in there? I'm not going in there. Do you remember the John Cleese sketch? Was it Monty Python, where they're selling in a cinema? John Cleese is walking around saying, "Albatross, stormy petrol on a stick." And someone says, "Have you got any wafers?" I can't tell you the answer, but I can imagine me in the shop and someone saying, have you got any wafers? Of course we haven't got any wafers. I just wouldn't be any good with the general public, with customers. I wouldn't swear at them. Well, I might, just a little bit. No, some of them are awful to deal with. I've heard people in shops having a go at the shop assistant. It's the same round at the doctor's surgery. In the waiting room, there's a notice, we will not tolerate rudeness and stuff like that on the wall, notices around, because people are just rude. I was there once and someone said to the receptionist, I need to see a doctor now. And she said, well, I'm sorry, there's no one available at this instant. You can make an appointment. And this woman took off. She went mental, ballistic. Talking of water butts, which we weren't, the one I've bought, it still hasn't rained. It's well over 2 weeks now, and it hasn't rained, but apparently there is rain forecast. Now, going back to the 50s, I remember my dad bought a water butt, not a plastic one. I don't think they were available then. This was a 60-gallon wooden barrel that someone, whoever sold the water butt, they'd cut the top off, made that into a lid, fitted a tap to it down the bottom, and it smelt of, what was it, cider or beer? It wasn't whiskey, I don't think, but it smelt of booze. It had come straight from some brewery somewhere. Someone was making them into water butts. 60-gallon thing, and I love that smell. I remember thinking, that's really nice, having a sniff in the water butt. This is before it had water in it. And I remember my dad saying that when water first goes in it, it'll leak. And I said, well, that's a bit odd. I suppose I was, 8 years old, 10 years old. And he said, no, the water has to soak into the wood, so the wood expands, and all the strips that make up the barrel, they seal each other. It all kind of squashes together and seals itself, so it doesn't leak anymore. Now, that was a proper water butt, a huge thing it was. And any keen gardener, or on the allotments, I remember going to the allotments and seeing these wooden barrels everywhere, they'd be worth a fortune now, wouldn't they? I'm sure it wasn't whiskey. I've got an idea it was beer, or was it cider? I can't remember. There were a lot of allotments around. Do you have allotments abroad? Basically, it's a plot of land. For example, a field, a small field, that's divided up into plots, and they're called allotments, and you can rent one. I don't know what the rent is. I think they're quite sought after these days. Then on your allotment, you can grow your cabbages, whatever, runner beans and all this stuff. And there is quite a waiting list. A friend of ours had one. She had hers for years. And she grew all sorts of things. She was always bringing stuff round. Do you want a cabbage? Do you want some sprouts? Who likes sprouts? I do. I love sprouts. I know a lot of people don't. Bit like Marmite, isn't it? You hate it or love it. If you're in Australia, it's not Marmite, is it Vegemite? I have tried that. Now, who prefers Marmite and who prefers Vegemite? I've tried Vegemite, and I have to say Marmite is mine if I had to choose. Ray's Rants at protonmail.com. Vegemite or Marmite? Do you have that in America? Do you have Marmite or Vegemite in America? What's the other thing? Oh, Bovril, isn't it? Bovril. You can make a hot drink out of Bovril, can't you? Do you have that abroad anywhere? Australia? Europe? Anywhere at all? America? I shall have to ask my North Carolina son next time he calls me. Have you got Marmite out there? He has told me in the past there are some things they can get which are from Britain that they like, but they can be expensive. I suppose if they're shipped all the way over there, they will be expensive. So if you're listening, North Carolina son, can you buy Marmite there or Vegemite? Let me know. I've just checked the weather forecast online, and there's one drop of rain at 8 o'clock tonight. So I shall look out for that. That won't fill the water butt, will it? We're getting through November very fast now, aren't we? Where are we? It's the 16th today. So we're just over halfway through November. It will soon be, of course, down under it's your summer. I keep saying that, don't I? Hope you're enjoying the heat while we are enduring the cold. It'll soon be spring. Do you know, it won't be long. And we'll have plants coming up, and I'll be growing seeds and things. Oh, I took a cutting from a rubber plant. You know, these rubber plants, if you cut something off, all this latex stuff oozes out. And I nearly got it on the carpet. Then I would have been in trouble. I caught it just in time. Then it wouldn't come off my hand. I had to go to the shed, get some petrol, which I keep for the Lister engine, and wash my hands in petrol to get it off. Anyway, I cut this shoot off the main rubber plant and stuck it in a pot. I used to do that sort of thing when I was a kid. You know, I'd go around taking cuttings on the way home from school. I'd snap things off people's plants and bushes as I walked home from their front gardens. Then I'd get home and get a flower pot, stick some earth in it and stick the the cutting in it. And some of them grew, some of them did actually grow. Anyway, the rubber plant cutting has survived. It's not only survived, it's growing. So we now have 2 rubber plants. I was in Greece once, many years ago, on holiday, and I saw this rubber plant. Well, it was a rubber tree outside in someone's front garden. A huge tree. It was fantastic to see it. I forgot that they're trees, aren't they? I've only ever seen them as indoor plants, of course, here, but they're actually, or they should be, trees. I don't suppose it would survive in our climates if I planted one in the garden. The fig tree survives. Now, that's a Mediterranean type thing, isn't it? It does survive the winter here, but we don't get proper figs. We get figs. Did I tell you Trish made some, what was it, fig paste? It was disgusting. She made this fig, whatever it was, fig spread or whatever. And she tried it and she said, oh, right, okay, now you try it. And I tried it. And I looked at her. I said, I know you've gone to a lot of effort, a lot of work. I said, but that is pretty disgusting. And she agreed. So we threw it away. She didn't make a lot, just a little pot of it so we could test it. Had it been nice, she would have made a load more. But as I've said before, the squirrels eat the figs anyway. And the birds. We had a jay turn up yesterday. We've got some monkey nuts, some peanuts by the back door under the patio roof. And this jay came under the roof, took a peanut and cleared off. We've had a pair of jays on and off for several years. I don't know whether they're the same pair, but they're lovely birds to look at. Well, time's ticking on. Tricia will be home from the shop later. We've got mother-in-law around for lunch, as it's Saturday. Probably daughter number 1. She'll pop in for lunch. Maybe with hubby, maybe not. I shall see you on Wednesday, of course, with the midweek message. Hope you're looking after yourself. Did I tell you? Yes, I did. I've put the pictures of a bumblebee and the Boston ivy red leaves, autumn-coloured leaves, on the website, raiserants.info. Have a look at that, and I shall see you Wednesday. Be good, be bad, don't get caught. Look after yourselves. And as always, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have. Bye-bye for now.